Hello, I'm Philip Stoten. I'm on the SCOOPstudio at Apex 2019. I'm joined by Davina from Cogiscan and Zac from Mentor, a Siemens company. Guys, thanks for joining me. I wanted to start by just talking about the use of data, not just in supply chain, but in general materials management, and how important that is and how you can kind of mitigate risk and some of the challenges. Davina, maybe I can start with you and you can kind of explain what Cogiscan's position is there and how you deal with that material side of things.
Cogiscan is a leader in our track, trace, and control platform, right? So really started off in tracing everything that happens on the factory floor. And 80% of what goes into a circuit board is the material, right? So that's a big component for us, tracing where the material comes from the supplier once it comes in the back door, and then as it flows around the plant, what machine it's on, where it goes to each circuit board assembly, and as it flows throughout the plant. So, and obviously that's a huge amount of data if you think about how many components go on a circuit board assembly, then feeding that information to maybe an MES system or a homegrown MES, whether that's commercial or proprietary.
Okay. And Zac, from your point of view, that MES system then has the job of maybe some control in the supply chain, but not always, but also materials management, where material is at any given time. Tell me a bit about your role in that.
Yeah, we're looking at really the whole factory. So not just SMT, not just the PCB assembly, but all the back-end processes, box build, mechanical assembly, and things like that. So that's really where we're focusing our efforts right now. For years, I think we've had a lot of very good tools in SMT and PCB assembly. And I think a lot of manufacturers now really are expanding their view beyond that because they're being pushed into broader markets. So I think that's where we're really looking is the full factory, all the electromechanical assembly.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest challenges for manufacturers, and particularly when I talk to people who are running lines, is that lines get stopped because of components not being where they should be at the right time. We worry about changeover time and everything else, but missing components is a big deal. Is that something that we're able to address with this kind of software solution?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think once it's properly integrated to what system you use to effectively run your materials management, if you're getting a real-time capture how you backflush, I think we are able to address it most of the time. It's those surprise cases when things get moved and maybe not properly scanned, or an operator has put it in the wrong place and didn't use the tool right. But I think from a software standpoint and what's available at the market, yeah, I think we do address that overall. It's the real-time information that tends to be the problem. We have a history of where it was maybe a day or ago, or the last operation, but where is it currently, I think continues to be a bit of a problem.
Okay. And when we look at that materials management, one of the things we're seeing is not just a de-skilling of operators, but less operators. So the idea that one operator can be refilling the reels for multiple lines. That's something that we're seeing more and more, Zac. Is that something that you're able to deal with, having that real-time information so people can plan their material management?
I think you hit on the planning there. That's one aspect I'd like to talk about is, we can avoid a lot of these situations with a proper plan, making sure that we're sequencing everything so we're not, needing the same reel on multiple lines. So I think that's another aspect. You've got the real time, making sure you know where everything is, but also even before you're running, making sure you have a good plan that takes into account your material and what's on hand, what's in stock, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to touch on, and I know it's not something that either of your softwares are particularly involved in at the moment, is the supply chain management itself. To properly manage a supply chain, you've got to know where your material is being used. You've got to know what your wastage is on reels and all that is. Is the software that's managing the supply chain interrogating your software and getting that information? Is there a good communication there between systems?
At this point, I don't know that Cogiscan has a specific use case for that, but I know that we would be able to easily integrate and provide that data. We're starting to collect as soon as the material comes in the back door, right? Where it came from, lot code, date code, supplier, and then that gets tracked in our system. As far as the supply chain outside of, say, where the IC was manufactured, I'm sure we would be able to very easily integrate that into our system, yes.
And from a Mentor point of view, but really from a Siemens point of view, I guess. You're starting to see those different layers of software much more integrated.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, today the situation is the end customer gets some product and they have no visibility to what components are in there, what processes it went through. So I think that's the idea that we're all trying to do is to collect this detailed data across the manufacturing spectrum, and then to be able to supply that through the supply chain. That's really where the tricky part is now, and I think a lot of people in the industry are looking at standards and ways to communicate this information. But for sure, I think you need very good tools like Cogiscan and Mentor tools to make sure that you can get this broad data collected as it's being manufactured.
Yeah, and that data should produce information that means better decisions are made. So hopefully that's a direction we're moving in, and interconnectivity of all these layers of software is a key part to that. Davina, Zac, thanks very much for joining me. Great conversation, and hope we can talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.